Richard cries and he says, I didn't want you guys to see me as less of a man because of the sexual abuse. And his dad says, I was a part of the Catholic Church, and kind of, lets that marinate. Let's the audience fill in the blank. And he says, do you think of me as any less of a man? Essentially implying that he had been SA'd in the Catholic Church as a child.
That is so fucked up. It's fucked up. So fucked up. It is just so damn fucked up. That's fucked up.
Hey, you guys. Welcome to Ash Goes Down the Rabbit Hole, our newest segment where I'm just going to talk pop culture and podcasts and movies and fucking music and the internet and social media and all that stuff. And it's just me and you guys. And today I think we're just going to get into it. So welcome, you guys. I'm your host, Ashley Love Richards. And today we are talking about the hit Netflix series Baby-Reindeer. Yeah, I've just been talking in a poor Scottish accent in my head for weeks now. Speaking of weeks, it has been out for a few weeks, so spoilies ahead. If you do not want to hear spoilies, then probably don't listen to this episode. But I am going to give a quick synopsis for anybody who needs a little overview, or maybe anybody who did not watch the series but wants to kind of get the deal. So it's a 7-episode series. Episode 1 starts with a very, very bold claim, which says, quote, "This is a true story, not based on a true story, not based on actual events, no based on, just this is a true story," which is really what's fucking everybody up right now, including me. Because of that, I went into the series believing that maybe, some things were changed, obviously, but that for the most part, what fucking happened in the series is what happened in real life. And a lot has come out that has shed a lot of doubt on that for me and everyone else. So let's just start off with that tidbit of information. For the first 3 episodes, we meet a guy named Donny Dunn, played by Richard-Gadd. This whole show, Baby-Reindeer, is based on his life and his experiences, and he plays himself in the show, which is, regardless of my opinion, amazing. As a trauma survivor, I cannot imagine turning that into entertainment for others and then reliving it via acting it out. I think it's an important story with an important message that's getting very overshadowed. But we meet the fictionalized version of him, Donny Dunn, and he's a struggling comedian, and we meet his stalker, Martha, and we get to know their relationship for the first few episodes. She's obviously pretty kooky, but so is he. For the first few episodes, I'm sitting there like, what the fuck is wrong with this man? He's feeling sorry for himself, but he's totally playing into this woman's fucking fantasy. He just does everything that you probably should not do if you have a stalker. He really leads her on, and you're just like, what the fuck? Then in episode 4, we find out that when he was a bit younger, he had been groomed and sexually abused by a super powerful dude in the entertainment industry. This guy promised him all kinds of stuff. Oh, I'm going to get you writing jobs, and you're going to work in TV and blah, blah, blah. And he goes over to this man's house. They do drugs. He proceeds to sexually assault him. And this happens repeatedly. And I thought that it was really, really brave to tell this so honestly, because, and I do believe that, it's pretty much how that happened, because a lot of people who don't understand sexual trauma or trauma would say, well, why did he keep going back? And that's part of one of the really nefarious things about abuse, is that a lot of times we, become manipulated by our were abusers and were able to kind of make excuses for things. And I just thought it was really incredible for him to be so honest about that, because then you understand why he is thriving on and giving into this attention from Martha, his stalker. You're like, okay, it makes so much sense. He went through this and now this person is providing him like a sense of worth. And okay, so then I went through the rest of the series thinking, okay, he's still not doing things great, but we understand, we have empathy. You know, we're learning that Martha is, you know, obviously a pretty sick individual, but she is a very fucking unlikable character. So, you know, there is that. And I'll get more into that. But first, let me say, after I watched the show, I immediately watched it again because I had so many questions left. I really needed to understand their relationship better. I needed to understand why he kept going back to his abuser. Not so much that, but why he goes back to his abuser in the last episode. I think he goes to confront him, but he ends up like walking in and having a cup of tea, and the abuser's like, hey, I'm working on a new show. Do you want in? And he's like, absolutely. And then he leaves and he starts having like a panic attack immediately outside of the building. And I was like, wait, what the fuck just happened? And then he starts listening to voicemails from Martha, because this has become like the comforting soundtrack to his life. And I'm so confused by this. So, you know, I watched it again and then I read some articles, and he said that he wanted people to understand with the abuse situation that a lot of people will go back to their abusers. You know, they will sometimes go to confront them and then go into like a freeze or fawn response. They can kind of fall back into those dynamics and have a really hard time saying no. So I was like, wait, what the fuck? Did he go back and work with his abuser? But I think, at least in the show, what is trying to be portrayed is that, you know, he goes back to confront him and ends up kind of like freeze fawning and saying, oh yeah, like I'd love to work with you, just because that power dynamic. And from what I read in interviews with him, he really wanted people to understand kind of the lasting effects of grooming and sexual abuse. So I thought that was really important. And I think it's unfortunate that that's getting overshadowed by the whole real life Martha situation. I've actually been watching it on the top 10 on Netflix, and it was at #1 for quite a while. Then some new stuff came out. You know, it made its way back to, it made its way to 5. And I figured it would kind of start, you know, keep going back and then fall off. But then because so much has come out since, I saw it go back to #4, and now it's back to #3 today on Thursday, May 23rd. So I don't think I've ever actually seen this with a show or documentary, like big interest, then it wanes, and then new shit comes out, and then all of a sudden a new boom in interest while it's still on the top 10. Pretty crazy. So just a quick caveat before I go any further, let me say that regardless of, you know, what some of my opinions are and what some of the things that I'm going to say about Richard Gadd, it does not make him any less of a victim. The things he went through are absolutely horrendous and should never happen to anyone. And I'm very glad that he shared his story and is getting more people to talk about stalking and male victims of stalking and sexual assault and abuse. I'm also certainly not a Martha apologist. She seems like a pretty vile narcissist, and she's also apparently quite mentally ill. And she's now getting death threats from the public. Not any of that help that Gadd claims he feels she so badly needs. She's recently stated that she's going to sue Netflix and or Gadd, and I honestly think that she could win, because I do feel that the show is defamation. Most people, including myself, went on the assumption that pretty much everything we saw in the show actually happened because we saw this is a true story in the fucking beginning. It does say something like based on true events or something in the very last credit, which no one ever sees. especially because Netflix, as a streaming service, is known for just automatically skipping the credits and putting you on to the next episode. So I feel like that's their like little legal way of like loophole, like, oh no, we said that it's just based on a true story. We just said it at the very end at a part where nobody would ever see. And Gadd has repeatedly stated that he wanted to portray Martha as a victim, you know, and a victim of the system who didn't get the help that she needed, but he took legitimately no precautions to hide her identity. Martha from Baby Reindeer is so fucking obviously Fiona-Harvey. Fiona-Harvey was found by internet sleuths quite fucking easily. She's a Scottish lawyer who looks and talks very similar to Martha and texts just like fucking Martha. The connections were not hard to make. They found tweets where she talks about Gadd explicitly and even says something about hanging her curtains, which is just like in the fucking show. He did say that she targeted him for 4 years, during which time she sent him 41,071 emails, 350 hours of voicemail messages, 744 tweets, 106 pages of letters, and 46 Facebook messages. I don't think this is far-fetched based on the fact that she stalked the Labour Party leader of the UK, Keir Starmer, with 276 abusive emails sent in less than 8 months. So, you know, I don't think that's far-fetched. But this show does end with her receiving a criminal conviction. No criminal convictions whatsoever or records have been found for Harvey. The show portrays her as a convicted criminal, and Gadd did get a first instant harassment warning against her, but this is a step below a restraining order that would not require, you know, a public conviction, and they don't even exist anymore because they were essentially pretty fucking pointless. So yes, we know he was stalked by Fiona-Harvey. We know that he was groomed and abused by a man in power in the entertainment industry. We know that his relationship with his trans partner reportedly did fall apart because of the stress with Fiona. I did not see mentioned in that article, though, that maybe the stress was also kind of from his unresolved trauma of being groomed and sexually abused. I mean, I don't know, call me crazy, but I feel like that could have also kind of been weighing on him, especially because he was preparing to do a show about it called Monkey See, Monkey Do, which is a play, and it's won awards. But I mean, we know that he got so deep into the relationship with Martha because of his unresolved sexual assault traumas. So I don't believe that his relationship was rocky solely because of Fiona and the stalking. Also, there's a scene in the show where he fully fucking bombs on stage and has a total breakdown about everything that's been happening. But this didn't happen. In real life, Gadd put the experiences that he showed in that scene in the show. He took his experiences with grooming and sexual assault, and another time that he slightly bombed on stage. Well, no, he did. He bombed pretty bad on stage, apparently. But apparently he kind of combines these two emotional truths to create this scene on stage, which did not happen, which also made me question like every other headline moment of the series. Apparently in this bombing on stage, he describes that nobody even clapped when he was done. He says it was, quote, a disappointment like nothing else, and that comedians set themselves up for their own failure. Quote, when you do comedy, it's kind of like a rock in a hard place. You're stuck between confidence and vulnerability. He said that comedians often, quote, strive for perfection and that you can never be perfect. So when you're a comedian, you can never be happy. I mean, I do feel that as a creator. I'm not going to lie. But it just made me question everything. Did Fiona sexually assault him? I don't know. Did Fiona physically attack him? I don't know. Did Fiona attack his trans girlfriend in a bar? I don't know. It's all just like very fucking unclear now. Also, with so much ambiguity, if I were his dad, I'd probably be kind of fucking upset because in the last episode, his dad says, you know, Richard cries and he says, I didn't want you guys to see me as less of a man because of the sexual abuse. And his dad says, I was a part of the Catholic Church, and kind of, you know, lets that marinate. Let's the audience fill in the blank. And he says, do you think of me as any less of a man? Essentially implying that he had been SA'd in the Catholic Church as a child. And now this question is also left very fucking open to speculation. And if I were, you know, in some sort of familial or friendship or whatever kind of relationship, I wouldn't want somebody putting a story out there that made it very ambiguous whether or not I had been sexually abused in childhood. I think that, you know, with the show being made, it was at the expense of, well, obviously Fiona-Harvey being outed, which I don't know. Honestly, she seems like a very not nice person. It's just that he said so much that like, oh, you know, I don't even think she would recognize herself. Let me find the quote. It's in my fucking notes here. In an interview with GQ in April, Gadd said, quote, their focus was on captivating the emotional truth, not creating a factual profile. We've gone to such lengths to disguise her that I doubt she would recognize herself in the show. Like I said, she has a Scottish accent. Jessica Gunning is an English actress. That's who played her, who did a Scottish accent for the show. She looks just fucking like her. They did not go to any lengths to disguise her, like whatsoever. And the Netflix policy chief, Benjamin King, told a UK parliament that, quote, every reasonable precaution in disguising the real life identities of the people involved in that story were taken. We didn't want to anonymize that or make it generic to the point where it was no longer his story, because that would undermine the intent behind the show. I would very much so argue that you could have made Martha a completely unrecognizable person and still fucking very much got the point of the show across. And saying that it's a true story, it's just, I mean, technicalities or not, it's just not cool to have the audience move forward on that assumption, which is seemingly, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know how much of it is true. And I've been going on the assumption that it was like pretty much all true. So I do think that Fiona-Harvey has the right to sue for defamation of character because she's portrayed as a convicted criminal. She probably should be, but it doesn't seem that she is. And she's portrayed as somebody who sexually assaulted and physically assaulted at least one person. So if she did not do that, that's pretty fucking uncool, bro. So I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. And that kind of brings me to the final question is, why aren't more people talking about the grooming and sexual assault? People are far less interested in that story than of Fiona's story. They seem far less intent on finding the real sexual abuser and bringing him to justice, but they're sending Fiona-Harvey fucking death threats all day. And it's like, maybe if you're sending a death threat, you're also kind of an emotionally unstable stalker. I don't know. I'd argue that the grooming and sexual assault is kind of the most important part of the story. It fucking explains why Gadd acted how he did so encouragingly with Fiona-Harvey. He was super fucked up from unresolved SA trauma, and that is understandable. Like I said, that's unfortunately now been overshadowed because of all of the Fiona-Harvey drama. Nobody from Netflix, including Richard, has come out and confirmed that Fiona-Harvey is Martha, although Fiona-Harvey has come out and confirmed that. But she said that she was forced to do so because internet sleuths found her, which I absolutely do believe. Yeah, people tried to find the real sexual assaulter at first. They found one dude, they accused him. Richard came out and said, it's not him. Please stop speculating on who the characters in the show are. That's not the point. But it's like, come on, dude, you're an intelligent man. You understand. People are going to speculate. So even for the guy that got accused and then was cleared because Gadd came out and said, no, it's not him. A lot of people probably didn't get the second memo saying, no, it's not him. And a lot of people will still probably always have fucking doubts. So now this dude, forever has kind of this like scarlet letter of did he or didn't he on his forehead as well. And it's just, I think a lot of good came from the show, but I also think that Netflix and Richard-Gadd went about not actually hiding the identities of at least, the very, very main character of the show and portraying it as a true story when it's based on a true story and, has emotional truths borrowed. And I don't know, you guys, it's a shit show. Let me know what you think. If you're here on the Patreon, awesome. Love you. Let me know in the comments. And if you are listening on the regular feed, hit me up, Instagram, that's where I generally am, at TSFU the podcast, or go to tsfuthepodcast.com. You can find all of our listening platforms, our Patreon, which is also patreon.com/TSFU. Get all the episodes ad-free, over 200 episodes that aren't on the regular feed, monthly new Ash Learns the Bible episodes, so much more. God, the swag. The swag is out of control, you guys. But all that at tsfuthepodcast.com. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for being here, you guys. I hope you love the new series, and I will see you next time for another adventure down the rabbit hole with me, Ashley. Bye, guys.
Bum 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 bum. That's fucked up. I'm so fucked up. Can't you see? It's just really fucked. That's fucked up.